Question number 1 in Mckelvie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. My office did receive complaints yesterday about the level of interaction between the two sides of the House, the level of noise. I don't want a repeat of that today. Question number 1 in Mckelvie.
Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker. To the Ministry for Primary Industries, what steps has the government taken in responding to the criminal threat to New Zealand's infant and other milk formula products?
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Nathan Guy.
Although the threat has been assessed by police as being low and as possibly a hoax, the government is treating the nature of the threat seriously. As soon as this threat was received in late November last year, an all-of-government response was initiated, and every resource has been made available to treat this issue as a top priority. Since that time, every possible step has and is being taken to respond to this threat and ensure the ongoing safety of our food products.
Supplementary question in Mckelvie.
What specific measures are in place that will ensure the integrity of our infant and other formula?
Honourable Nathan Guy.
Mr. Speaker, over the last few months we have taken expert advice on how to respond to a threat of this type and made considered decisions. Officials have analysed the supply chain in meticulous detail right through from cow to can and have worked with manufacturers to put in place additional security measures. On top of our normal thorough testing, auditing and verification system, we have a comprehensive new 1080 testing regime for dairy products that gives us a high degree of confidence in the safety of New Zealand infant formula. It is extremely unlikely that anybody could deliberately contaminate formula during the manufacturing process, and there is no evidence of this ever having occurred.
Speaker.
Supplementary question in Mckelvie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, why did the government not go public as soon as the threat was received?
Honourable Nathan Guy.
Mr. Speaker, this is first and foremost a police investigation into a criminal threat. The government took advice from police and officials on the timing of the announcement. The threat was assessed by police as being low and possibly a hoax. If there was any serious risk to consumers, this would have changed the approach. The government has taken this time to work closely with manufacturers to bring in a new testing regime and further improve security. Thanks to this work, we are now able to give every reassurance to mums and dads, both here and around the world, that infant formula they are using is as safe today as it was prior to the threat being received.
Supplementary question, Ron Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, is it customary with a bioterrorism threat to reveal that police have no leads, to alarm the general public and our trading partners, while also giving massive publicity to the perpetrators of the crime?
Honourable Nathan Guy,
Mr. Speaker,
that's
an outrageous allegation from that member. If the member listened to the answers and the questions, he would have known the thorough process that the government's been through and the reasons for that.
Irresponsible grandstand.
Order. Point of order, Ron Mark.
Seeking your assistance, Mr. Speaker. My question was, is it customary? I heard all the other explanation, but I've asked him, is it customary?
Order. No. On this occasion, it's questionable whether it was even of a ministerial responsibility addressed to the Minister for Primary Industries. The question's been addressed. Supplementary question.
Supplementary,
Damien,
Mr. Speaker. Why then did the Minister and his colleague, the Prime Minister, use the term eco-terrorism, which has heightened the international concern and publicity over an incident that the New Zealand police have called criminal blackmail?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it is definitely both, and I stand by the statements that I made yesterday. No, we haven't.
Supplementary question, Ron Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, given that the Prime Minister has told us that this was kept quiet by over 1,000 people for 3 months and that the supply chain has been secured, is the only reason it was revealed yesterday, like with the GCSB and the Iraq deployment, because some reporters have been tipped off to make this an issue in the middle of a tight by-election?
Again, in order. Again, insofar as the Minister feels he has ministerial responsibility.
No,
Honourable
that is
Nathan Guy.
completely incorrect. I think that member's been travelling on a bus in Northland going around a roundabout the wrong way.
Supplementary question, Ian Mckelvie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Why did the government alert overseas markets prior to the announcement yesterday?
Honourable Nathan Guy.
Mr. Speaker, when the government says that overseas markets were notified in advance, we aren't saying that overseas consumers were notified ahead of New Zealanders. We briefed overseas authorities prior to the notification of the threat in the same way that New Zealand authorities were briefed. It's important to remember that a large quantity of our infant formula is exported and consumed by families overseas. It's prudent that overseas regulators were also able to answer any questions that overseas consumers may have had as soon as the news broke to help mitigate any adverse reaction to New Zealand dairy products. So far, I must say, Mr. Speaker, this reaction has been very measured.
Question number 2, Materia Tube.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Tēnā koutou.